Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Certified Educator Program's second day of live webinar sessions, and today's session called Getting Started with CK-12 Adaptive Practice and Assignments. I'm Katie, one of the CEP program managers, and my colleague Lindsay and I will be running today's webinar from the CK-12 headquarters in Palo Alto, California.
We are thrilled to have so many participants from all around the world joining us on our second day of live sessions for the CK-12 Certified Educator Program. Once we finish today's Getting Started webinars, we'll be able to get to the core webinar content right away. But since this is still just the second day, we do want to take a few minutes here to do some reminders about the program and to help answer any questions. So the first basic question is, if you're looking to join the ranks of CK-12 certified educators, how will you do it? Here's what you're going to need to do. You need to watch 2 mandatory on-demand sessions. We launched the first on-demand session, which is called the Certified Educator Program and CK-12 Overview, on Monday, July 1st. If you have not watched that session yet, it's a series of 5 short videos. Please make it a priority because it really does set you up for success and should help answer any questions that you have about the Certified Educator Program. And we give you lots of tips for how to navigate CK-12 and find content. The second on-demand session, called Beyond the CK-12 Certified Educator Program, will be available at the conclusion of the live sessions next week. The next thing you need to do is you need to join us for 5 or more live sessions. So this is one of them. We're happy to have you. If you need to register for more sessions, you can do so at our registration page at any time. You will also need to complete the accompanying assignments to go with all sessions. In our system, it's labeled a quiz, but that's just the term our system used. We're still making them assignments. You will have until July 31st to finish all sessions and all of your assignments. And then you will complete a final form to request your certification. And finally, you will be CK-12 certified. It really is that easy, and it is all free.
So we've sent you a few emails about joining the program class on CK-12. If you still haven't done so, you can log into CK-12 and click on Classes. There you will see a plus sign if you're logged in as a teacher, or the Join a Class button if you registered as a student. When you click on that, you can use the code 8TZWP. After you join the CEP class, you can click on Shared Resources to find the program's FLEXBOOK 2.0 with all content and assignments. Once you're in the program FLEXBOOK, you can access any session by expanding the table of contents and clicking on the matching title. For the Certified Educator Program and CK-12 Overview section, you can watch the 5 short videos for that session. All of them will contain resources and assignments, no matter what session you look into, and we recommend reviewing the questions for that assignment before beginning your assignment. When you are ready to start your assignment, meaning you have all of your answers readied, click on the Get Started for that Start Quiz option, and then you can start that quiz. It does require you to do it in one sitting, so we recommend that you prepare all your answers. You can put them in a Google Doc or whatever you need to do before you start that particular quiz. When you've completed the quiz, exit out of the report and click Turn In on the main lesson page. This will change the bar from a teal bar with a Turn In button to a light green one that notes that you turned it in. And it also allows you to turn in any updated work. You can see your progress on these assignments under Reports. There you will see both your % completion and the date you last turned in each assignment. Don't worry if you don't get 100% on your assignment. We're trying out a new open response question type on our system specifically for this program, and we've tried to include a variety of potential answers, but you may occasionally be marked incorrect for an answer that was acceptable. Don't worry, these questions aren't in the system for our students. But if your score is dramatically low, you can always take it and turn in your quiz again. However, as we said, don't worry. We're grading on a very generous curve, and we can always check your specific answers if we have any questions. Our intention with the assignments is that you explore our site and find resources that are useful for you, not that you achieve perfect scores.
One additional thing to point out is that we do have a session resource page for all of our webinar sessions. These are available to you in our book. These are also available at the tiny URL listed above, CK-12 Practice 2019 for today's session. You can simply download this and keep it on your computer for reference later on. If you're the type of webinar session attendee who wants to take some notes, this might be something that you download and print before a session and write on it. It's just there for your reference to use as you would like. So we use the Zoom webinar platform for all of our webinars, and you guys are getting pretty good at it, really. My favorite part of starting a webinar is when we press broadcast, we get to be flooded with all of the messages from you guys talking about where in the world you're from. Like right now we're looking, good evening from Burma. Somebody typed in earlier that it's midnight in Manila. Then of course, all of our USA folks from West Coast to East Coast. We really are thankful that you guys are taking your time wherever you are in the world to do some professional development and learn something this summer. It really is a testament to the awesome educators that you guys are. So in that chat window, please keep that conversation going. That is for you guys to talk during our webinar to each other. Make sure that you are changing it to say all panelists and attendees so that everybody can see your message. Sometimes it just goes to all panelists and the community misses out. So change it to all panelists and attendees and everybody can see what you're typing. The Q&A window is where we reserve the space for you to type questions to our presenters. So Katie and I are going to stop periodically during the presentation today and answer some of those Q&A questions live. And we also have a team here who is answering those questions via text as well. So questions for the team go in Q&A, talk to each other in chat.
So in today's webinar, we're going to cover the following topics. CK-12's adaptive practice system. So we have an intelligent system with over 150,000 questions, and it adapts to students by challenging them with harder questions or recommending resources for them. We'll then talk about CK-12 classes, so creating and managing classes, along with features such as sharing content, hosting discussions, making assignments, and more. And then we'll wrap up this session by talking about assignments and reports. This includes assigning practice and other modalities, and seeing student work, such as the answers that they wrote, any level of questions, and the time spent. We'd like to launch a poll right now to find out a little bit more about your experience with adaptive practice and assigning CK-12 modalities. So here you'll see two questions. The first question asks how familiar you are with using our practice tool. So let us know if you're new to CK-12's practice, you use it occasionally or frequently, and maybe that you've even customized it into a quiz, such as we did for this particular class. We also ask if you have assigned any particular CK-12 modalities to your students, and that might be through CK-12 or through one of our learning management system integrated options like Google Classroom, Schoology, or Canvas. So we're going to pause for a few seconds and give you guys a chance to kind of read through that and answer those questions.
The answers are flooding in. We'll give you another few seconds here to lock in your answer. I'm always curious, Katie, what do you think? Do we have mainly beginners or do we have maybe a mix?
So we're getting a couple more in here at the last second. Just kind of select any last choices and click submit for that poll. We'll wrap it up. This is just to give us a general idea of where you guys are coming from. So with that, we're going to end the poll and we'll share those results with you. So you guys can see that, not surprisingly, for a session called Getting Started with Adaptive Practice, and most of you are brand new to practice, that's great. We're excited to introduce this system to you. It looks like some people have used it occasionally or frequently and might have even started to customize practice into a quiz. And so we're hoping that you get a little bit more out of this session because we're talking about some of the changes and new pieces within our reports features and within kind of how things are working in our system with updates this year. And then it looks like people have assigned a number of different modalities, but that, almost a little under half of you guys have not assigned anything. So we'll be walking you through those particular pieces as well.
It looks like everybody's going to be able to learn something today, which is awesome. So by the end of today's session, you will be able to do the following things. You will be able to find and assign a FLEXBOOK 2.0 lesson with adaptive practice. You will find and assign individual modalities, including our interactives, videos, and real-world applications. You'll be able to create a new CK-12 class or make changes to existing classes. Find detailed per-question feedback on students' completed work, and quickly see class-level reports with a heat map of student progress and skill.
For those of you who will be taking customizing CK-12 adaptive practice and assignments, here are the types of things we're going to cover in that more advanced session. So we'll cover kind of the basics for quizzes that goes with customizing them, settings for them, adding concepts or reordering questions. We'll talk about creating new questions and using our math editor for that if you need to. We'll talk about kind of where you use those questions, whether you're swapping practice for quizzes in a 2.0 FLEXBOOK like we did, you're embedding quizzes as inline questions or assigning them separately. And then we'll talk about what you can see on students for those quizzes, whether that's the full report or the insights if it's within a 2.0 lesson. So if you want additional help with any of these skills right now, or with our integration with learning management systems such as Google Classroom, Canvas, Schoology, and Edmodo, please be aware that since this is the Getting Started webinar, we'll try to live answer and focus on the basics, so we'll prioritize those questions. We will try to answer your more advanced questions, both through the Q&A window, as well as we'll stay on and answer any complex questions that need a live demonstration kind of at the end of the presentation. So with that, let's move into adaptive practice.
We are so proud of our adaptive practice system. It's pretty incredible what it can do. And just a reminder, like everything on CK-12, this is absolutely free. You will never hit a paywall. There's no cost to any of our resources. We do just ask that you create an account and that students would create an account so our intelligent system can do what it's built to do and, you know, track progress and adapt according to your performance on our system. But when you come to adaptive practice, we have over 150,000 questions covering math, science, and spelling. We offer questions at 3 levels that adapt to student performance and differentiate learning for students. We offer content when students struggle, and all of our adaptive practice questions can be customized into quizzes, which Katie just said she's going to cover as soon as tomorrow in the Customizing Adaptive Practice session. So I'm going to show you several ways to access adaptive practice depending on if you're assigning a FLEXBOOK 2.0 lesson or if you're just wanting the standalone modality at ck12.org/practice. But first, let's just kind of look at, step back and see how it works. Our system is set up to challenge students to answer 10 questions correctly. Students see this message at the top of their practice. It says, get in the game, get 10 answers to complete your practice goal. Our system meets students where they are. With 3 levels of questions, easy, medium, and hard, the system will match the student's level and will gradually increase or decrease difficulty depending on how students are performing. This means that a student who is struggling may hit a goal of 10 correct with mostly easy questions, and a student who is more advanced would probably have more of a mix of levels. For teachers, this ensures that each student is progressively and appropriately challenged while maintaining a clear record of students' level of understanding. So having questions that adapt to students' needs is awesome, but CK-12 takes it to the next level by making content recommendations in the moment. So if a student is struggling, CK-12 will intervene by recommending helpful resources like reads and videos. And I think this is really the magic to the system. I used to teach in a school where I had 6 classes a day with 30 students in each class, and it's really difficult to differentiate for all of those students in the moment. And our system is going to step in and do the heavy lifting for you on this and ensure that students are being appropriately challenged and supported. All right, let's look at a sample practice screen. This one's on adding and subtracting money, and it has the most expensive French fries and hot dog in the whole entire world on the screen. It must be a very large container of French fries or in a very expensive country. So following kind of the numbers here, the number 1, the first one, this is our progress bar, and it displays the number of questions answered correctly. So you can see that our system has already set the goal of getting 10 correct, and this is a system requirement. This cannot be changed by the teacher or by the student. All right, next you see the skill level meter, and this is going to increase or decrease based on the student's correct and incorrect answers. And we're going to talk more about that in a minute. We do offer all different question types. You're going to see questions that are multiple choice, true, false, fill in the blank, select all that apply, and images are even included in some questions as well, like these on the screen. Our adaptive practice system serves up hints. They're available in the bottom left during practice for most of our concepts. Sometimes the hint appears as text, and sometimes it's even a short video for often the lower level content for the younger kids. We have a scratch pad that's available for all questions if students need to use their mouse or a stylus to write on the screen and solve a problem. And then the improve this question option just gives our users a chance to report any issue they might see with a question or an answer to submit it to the CK-12 staff. So when a student presses stop now on an adaptive practice, they will see this report. If you are a teacher who has assigned this practice to your student, you will have access to the same report when an assignment is turned in. So you can see if the student met the goal of getting 10 correct, which would be 100%. Here I just stopped at 7, so I'm at 70%. Other information includes the best streak and time spent. An extremely helpful indicator of a student's understanding of a concept is the skill meter, which shows student progress from beginning to mastery. And if you want more information about the skill meter, you can click the info icon or press learn more within this pop-up box, and it's going to send you to a help desk article that more thoroughly discusses the skill level meter. One other thing that you see on the screen is that we have recommendations for how to continue exploring this concept. For instance, our intelligence system says that students who watch this video score an 87% or higher on the practice. If you were to keep scrolling down this page, you would also see each question, its easy, medium, and hard label, and the exact answer the student typed or selected. And I'll show you that in a minute as well. After viewing this report, students have the option to keep practicing. They can start and stop at any time. They can even go beyond 10 correct. A reminder, this is meant to be a practice system. So we really encourage students to keep coming back to it and dive in as much as they need to get up to that mastery skill level. All right, so now we're gonna put it all together. I'm gonna go live to our site on CK12.org and start showing you how you access practice. All right, you should be looking at our homepage here. Several different ways to find anything on our site, of course, like all websites. I'm going to take you up to this Explore menu at the top. And this is a great menu to find a lot of our different resources. Our FLEXBOOks 2.0 is where I'm going to start with you guys. So I'm going to click on FLEXBOOks 2.0, and we're going to scroll down the page that explains what FLEXBOOks 2.0 are. If you haven't attended the Getting Started with FLEXBOOks in the 2.0 platform session yet, hopefully that's one that's on your schedule because it's a good one to talk about these books. I'm going to choose one of our FLEXBOOks. I'm going to demo this morning from our Interactive Physics for High School book. And when I open up this book, there's a bunch of different things I can do with this book, but I'm just looking to jump into a section. So let's pick something from forces and Newton's law of motion. I'm going to go into friction. So this takes you to the start page for that lesson. And you can see that we do put down at the bottom some related modalities, other ways to learn, which is exciting. These are simulations. We've got a PLIX. We've got a real-world application and some videos, a study guide. So there's lots of resources here for students and teachers. But I'm wanting to show you practice. So within a FLEXBOOK lesson that you could assign to your students, They're going to read about friction. Maybe they watch this video, launch a simulation, but you notice this button over here to the right that says View Practice. And when I select this, since I'm in a teacher account, I just have the ability to preview it. If a student is doing this, they would have a start button. So they would be able to start practice. But here's my message about, hey, you need to get 10 correct. Our intelligence system thinks it's going to take about 6 minutes to get 10 correct on this practice. And so I'm going to press the preview button and just show you the screen that I just walked you through. So right now I'm at 0 out of 10 correct on adaptive practice. The skill level is to be determined. It starts in a neutral state until you start answering questions correctly or incorrectly. I am going to not do much reading of questions and just select some things here. Even if you miss it, we usually have some positive, encouraging tips here, like read questions slowly for details. I'm going to move on to the next one. If I want a hint on this question, I can get a hint and then say, oh, I got it. I can pull up the scratch pad where I could do, some math. I could draw some angles, whatever I need to do to help with that problem, or close out of the scratch pad. Again, that improve this question is just if you happen to see an error in the question or have a suggestion for the CK-12 team. But let me continue to try to answer some questions. You can do it. Select all that apply. I'm just going to select one here. I got 1 out of 4 correct. Every mistake is an opportunity. And plot spoiler, I'm going to miss this one too. And our system usually, thereabouts now, it can tell that I'm guessing, that I have just missed several questions in a row. Maybe I'm not taking this practice very seriously, or maybe I need to go back to some basics here. So CK-12 is now suggesting that I read up on friction, that I try this interactive simulation that's called the Malt Shop to see how friction's working through a simulation, to try this PLIX. So I can dive into any of this content and again, come back to my practice at any time. Or if I'm like, hang on, I'm going to get better at this, I can return to practice and I can continue going from there. You'll notice my skill level is still just beginning because I haven't answered anything correctly yet. So I'm still just at the red. And then I finally answered something correctly. A flex brain is a happy brain. So I could keep going, or say I'm a student who now has to stop and go to practice. I'm going to do more later. I can stop for now. And I'm going to see a report. Like I said, if you have assigned this to your students as a teacher, you would have access to the same report. You can see that I'm only 10% of the way to my goal. I've only answered 1 question correct. I don't have a streak yet. That'll show 2 or 3 if I manage to get several in a row. My time spent is 2 minutes, and this is really helpful to you as a teacher to see, have a true measure of how students are progressing, is how much time they're spending on their practice. I'm still at this beginning level, and then, like I said, you can scroll down and you can see that I 5 questions, 4 of them were easy, 1 was medium. So if I continue to answer questions correctly, I'd probably bump up to more medium or hard questions. And you can see exactly what the answers were and what was typed in incorrectly and what the correct answer is. So lots of information and reports, both as instant feedback for students and as a teacher if you've assigned it. Okay, I'm going to close out of this for now. So that's assigning this, viewing adaptive practice through a FLEXBOOK. As a teacher, there is an assign button right here. So you can assign from a lesson very quickly. You also have a toolbar where you can assign the class. So several places where you can assign a FLEXBOOK 2.0 lesson that has the practice already attached to it. For those of you who are like, I'm not using a FLEXBOOK 2.0 right now, but I really want to use your adaptive practice system, there's several different ways from our homepage to do that. I just pressed on this logo. That's a handy way to always get back to the homepage. I like scrolling down and still using these explore circles for our simulations, our PLIX, and our adaptive practice. So if I click on adaptive practice here, this takes me to a browse page just to see what adaptive practice we offer, which concepts we have adaptive practice in. So I was in a physics FLEXBOOK 2.0 earlier, but if I access physics content from this browse page, I can also use all of these different branches here, and I can go to, let's say, motion in 2 dimensions. And it's a little different view, and this is going to show a student how they're progressing on their adaptive practice. So I can see that I'm only 20% finished with gravitational force, only 50% with projectile motion. So I could start a new practice that I haven't attempted yet, or I could go into one that I've already been working on, and I could keep practicing at any time. From this view, you can also see that you have the option to assign to class as a teacher. If you're signed in as a teacher account, students wouldn't see this assigned to class. You have a customize button, which this will be a magic button that Katie talks about in the customizing practice session. And then you can also download our practice as a worksheet. Obviously, you lose the adaptive component, but if you just need a list of questions to download as a worksheet for certain students, you have that ability here as well. So I'm going to come up for air for a second and check in with the team and see what kind of Q&A questions we have.
Great, thanks, Lindsay. So one of the questions we had was just about that download worksheet. So you just answered it right away. That does give a subset of that practice. It's clearly not adaptive, but that takes care of that piece. We had a number of questions that were asking about kind of restrictions being put on practice in terms of like blocking practice until later or turning hints off or what to do if students guessing. So that's really kind of the big difference between our practice, adaptive practice system and the quizzes within our system. If you need to put settings in such as you don't want them to access hints or you want to save that and do a very specific assessment and hold that until later, you can customize that into a quiz, and there you can pick and choose your questions. You can turn hints off. You can kind of clean assessment tool. So just kind of think about that when you're deciding if you want to assign our adaptive practice to really encourage students to work their way through. There were also some great comments in the chat window about ways to kind of address guessing and working in small groups and things like that. So definitely keep those all in mind. And then we had a question about prompts read to students. We are kind of beta testing some options at the lower levels for some of those prompts. And so I know that across our system, a lot of kind of text-to-speech extensions work. So you might want to check out some of those and see if that helps in the meantime. But we are looking into that. And then the last question that we got had to do with accessing practice. Practice is accessible across all of our devices. If you were using our practice app, you can simply use a mobile browser on a phone and it will work exactly like the practice app used to do so. So just keep that in mind. It didn't make sense to kind of support both of those at this point in time, but those are all still available across a phone, a tablet, or a laptop. And then we have one question at the top here that says, if I've created my own FLEXBOOK using CK-12 FLEXBOOks, will I still be able to access the practice? And the answer to that is yes. So if you want to include practice within that FLEXBOOK, then you'd want to simply tag those particular sections within that book to a concept within CK-12. And that will pull the practice for that concept into that particular section, or you can choose to create your own quiz and attach that to your FLEXBOOK 2.0. So let's see if there's maybe one or two more we want to answer.
I noticed in the chat that there was a bit of a conversation about how teachers are using this, and the teaching strategies session that we have coming up later in the week. I really encourage all of you to attend that because we're going to talk a lot about practical applications for this, but it varies widely. If some teachers use this as homework, some teachers use this as an in-class assignment. Some teachers, I've been in classes where they have an interesting formula of they have students do the adaptive practice, and if they achieve the 100% goal, then they get points applied toward their end of unit quiz or test. So it's really up to you about how you manage this, of if it's just a completion grade in a grade book, or whether you're doing your own formula of the percentage that they got and how you might incorporate the skill level meter into, your grading practice of adaptive practice. But we'll have more ideas on that in our teaching strategies session.
So it looks like there's kind of a bunch of questions coming in about seeing student progress. We're going to get to there in this webinar, so we're going to hold off on answering those until Lindsay explains that. We do have a question about restarting practice. So if you restart practice, you're just kind of continuing. So they're going to get any new questions in the system that are available, even if the student's already hit that 100% mark. They are always welcome to continue to practice. If for some reason they went through all multiple hundreds of questions and, order of operations in mathematics, they would have the option to kind of restart that system. But in general, they would be getting kind of whatever questions are still left for that particular topic. And then we had one last question that I think is kind of one of the basic questions. It asks us to explain the difference between adaptive practice and a FLEXBOOK. So think of a FLEXBOOK as the lesson on learning. So that might include interactives, it might include text, it might include an embedded video. There might be questions kind of built into that, but really that's the learning piece. And then the adaptive practice is the kind of practice option for students. They're actually trying out different pieces. Some of those questions might be similar to a question they answered if there was embedded inline questions. But really, the FLEXBOOK is kind of the learning lesson, and then the adaptive practice is their chance to practice. So I think with that, I'm going to steal the screen back over. We're going to jump back into talking about classes. And this section just kind of, I'm going to frame this right now, and we'll try to say this as many times as we need to. You guys are all in a CK-12 class for this particular program, so this section will kind of help you navigate what that looks like. But really, this is for people who aren't using Google Classroom, Canvas, or Schoology. So if you're using one of those three, you do not need to create a separate CK-12 class, and we actually recommend that you don't, because it gets really confusing for you and your students. But within a CK-12 class, just like within one of those learning management systems, there are options to access resources, to complete assignments, and to view reports. So as I was just saying, you have choices when you choose how you want to assign work to your students. This class option within CK-12 is for those of you that might not be using one of our integrated management systems. It is free. It is available for everyone if you like it better and want to switch out. But if your school or district is using Canvas, Schoology, or Google Classroom, please, please, please create your classes there, assign your work there. Our learning management system breakout sessions, which start today right after this session, and then there's another one tomorrow, really explicitly show you how to assign work through and into those systems. So this section, short, quick little section, will just focus specifically on CK-12 classes.
Okay, I'm going to go back to our sites to show you guys this. And just a quick reminder, there's a lot of great messages in the chat window that are just coming to panelists. So again, send it to all panelists and attendees so everybody can see it, because you guys are giving practical suggestions for how to use CK-12 in the classroom, and I really want the whole community to see it. We are back on our homepage here. And now we're going to look at classes. And like Katie said, you guys are all in a class this summer, so hopefully I'm going to show you some things that will help you navigate our class, but you might see the potential to using a CK-12 class for your management system if you are not using Google Classroom, Canvas, or Schoology. Okay? The easiest way to access classes from the homepage is by going to the menu option and clicking on classes. So when I press on classes, it shows me the CEP July 2019 class, which this demo account is a member of, and you guys are all members of this class, okay? So I also have a summer 2019 class that has some student work in it, and I can scroll down and I can see a lot of other classes that this Jumpstart demo account has set up over time, okay? A lot of you may only have one class if you've never used CK-12 classes before. That's just the one that you're in. But if you want to create a class, come over to this plus sign here, and you have the option to join a class or create a class. So you joined one earlier, now we're going to create a class. Pretty simple options here. You're going to give your class a class name. We'll go with Demo July 9, 2019. You also have some choices of how you manage these classes. If you are a high school teacher with 5 class periods during the day, you might choose to have biology hour 1, biology hour 2 as separate classes. If you are an elementary teacher, you might divide up by subjects, or for those of you looking to differentiate groups of students, you could also set up, you know, by ability level and maybe call it the red group and the blue group, and, you know, so they don't know if they're in the high achieving or the lower achieving group, but you could send different assignments to those groups within CK-12 classes. That is one thing to remember when you're creating a class, is that all of the students are going to get the same assignment in that class. If you want to give different students different assignments, they have to be in different classes. Okay, so you can give it a class name, and then there's a class description here if you want to write a few sentences about the class. And then you can select the subject if you would like. We'll make this a spelling class. And then you have options for themes. I'm going to go with pink, and we're going to create a class. And so now you can see in my classes, my class count just went to 20. And it says demo July 9th, 2019. My class has no members yet. So the first thing that our system prompts you to do is to add students. So I'm going to press the add students option. And again, some choices here. Invite students by email. We provide a template here that you might want to use to email your students. It has the join code for the class. It's right here, and you're going to find it a few additional spots in your class, but you could give this join code to your students. Again, we've modeled that for you with our communication with you about our class of how you would join one. You can have your students access the same way. I can also come back up here. I can find existing students if I have repeat classes year over year and they're already in the system. I can just find them and add them to my class. You can also create student accounts if you need to, and you can upload a class roster with a little bit of a CK-12 support assist if you would like that option as well. So probably independently, you might want to explore how you would want to add students to your class if you're going to use them. Let me go to a class that we've already populated with some of our CK-12 interns have kind of done a demo class for us here. So under summer 2019, by default, it kind of shows you who's been joining classes, what activity there is. I can see assignments and reports, which I'm going to talk about in the last section of this webinar, so I'm going to get to that. But you also have the option as a teacher to set up a class that has the Q&A ability. You can turn this on or off. This is like a discussion board where you could post a question and have students post answers. Some teachers love this and use this actively. Some teachers just don't even want to deal with the discussion board, and they turn that off in settings. Shared resources in our CK-12 class. This is where you found our CK-12 book for the summer. So you can add in any PDFs, relevant handouts, maybe your syllabus lives there, whatever you want to have as a shared resource. Only teachers can share resources with the students. Students are not able to upload anything to resources. That's just a teacher ability. I can see the members of this class. We did add recently an option to, you can make a co-teacher for the class. Co-teachers will be able to see reports and assignments. So if I wanted to make Corey a co-teacher, I can do that with just a click here, and they would be able to see reports and assignments for those of you who have a co-teacher situation. I can also remove students from class here. And then lastly, under settings, this is where you can control notifications of how often people are being notified about what you're doing in your classroom. Here's the Q&A settings. You can turn them on or off. The class code is here again, the class join link, or ultimately you can delete a class. I can also come back out to my classes, and I have the option to hide a class. So I'm going to do that right now, actually, to this class that I just set up for the demo. By clicking these 3 buttons, I can remove this from my dashboard, so I'm not going to see it regularly when I come on. So I'm going to go ahead and hide this from my dashboard. It says, you're not going to see this anymore, and I say, yep, and I hide it. But I can always come over here under the show current classes, and I can toggle and I can see the classes that I have hidden. So they're always there if you hide it, but it just changes your dashboard view for easy access for the classes that you need. All right, I'm going to pause again for a second and check in with the team on Q&A.
Thanks, Lindsay. So we had a couple people kind of bring up this demo class. This is just a demo class for us to show. You do not need to join this demo class. You just need to join the CEP class. This is not something that we share externally, so please don't even worry about that at this particular point in time. We had a question in terms of assigning content to multiple classes. So we will talk about assignments shortly. That's the next kind of section for this particular session. And yes, you can assign to multiple classes in one shot. We also have a question in terms of time spent on a unit using Schoology and then Google Classroom. So the kind of student report when Lindsay was showing practice where it had all that information in terms of time spent or things like that, that's available right now in Google Classroom, Canvas, and CK-12. When we roll full class reports into Schoology this summer, you'll be able to see more than just the grade. I know Schoology had a limitation that we're working kind of around to address that particular piece. And then we've had a couple questions about moving students from one class to another. So you are more than welcome to add a student to a class and remove a student from a class, but you're going to want to, that their scores don't transfer in that regard. So just keep that in mind. You may want to kind of export their grades that they've done up to that point in time and have a record of that, and then any new work they could access within their current class. So I think
I was just going to show them real quick. I don't think I ever actually pressed on this button, but when you press the assign button that are in various places across our site, it does pull up the select either CK-12 classes or Google Classroom. And then you Canvas and Schoology users, you will be assigning work directly through those platforms. That's why you don't see it, because you'll be within Schoology, you'll be within Canvas to create CK-12 assignments. But if I select CK-12, I can now select, again, in one shot, the classes that I want to assign it to. I need to set up a due date. Actually, probably don't want to do this, or these people are all going to be alerted that our interns are going to think they have more work to do. But this is how you do that, is that you choose the classes, you choose the start date, you choose a due date, and this option here to show answers or to not show answers, you can set it so that students cannot see the answers until the due date has expired. Then they would show up in their report. So if you want to withhold the correct answer because it's more of a higher stakes learning experience, you can do that. Or if you want them to get the immediate feedback, you would want to show them. But that's the box that's going to pop up. So you CK-12 classes and Google Classroom users, you do it here. Schoology and Canvas, you will learn all about that in our LMS breakout, because you do that within those platforms.
Cool. So right now we have a question in the queue about what gets assigned when you click assign. So I think we're going to jump right into that last part of here on assignments. So across our site, you'll see the options to share resources and to assign resources. So for example, within this FLEXBOOK 2.0, this lesson on continental drift shows the options to assign to class, to share, and to share to class. And there are kind of different reasons for using each one of these. So the first one, as Lindsay just showed you, when you press assign to class from the sidebar or the top menu, this box will pop up. It will ask you if you want to assign to CK-12 or assign to Google Classroom. Once again, that's why you don't need separate classes in both places. You just need them in one or the other. Canvas and Schoology assignments are done within those systems, so it doesn't kind of work from this direction. You do it from within those platforms. When you create an assignment, it means that the student's grade will be passed back to you when they turn it in, and that you as the teacher will be able to see student reports. So that's kind of the real goal of assigning, is that you get to see the progress that students have made. If you press share, you are sharing a link to the resource whether that's on social media, in an email, or to Google Classroom. And so that's really the idea of just saying, hey, here's an option, here's something to check out, here's something to look at. You're not looking for any progress. If you use the share and you share it to Google Classroom, you're probably doing that at the book level versus at a lesson level. So you might want to share the entire book with your Google class that way, but then you would assign using the assign button from CK-12 directly to actually see those reports. And then the last piece is almost like that share to Google Classroom option, but you'd be sharing it to a CK-12 class. And so once again, you might share a full book or something like that with your class so they have that book as a resource. For the CEP, that's how we've shared the FLEXBOOK for this whole program. You find it under the shared resources for that class. So in summary, what all of our resources have, like they have a unique URL at the top that you can always share. You can use the green share plane to share. You can assign a particular modality, and that's going to be what generates a report for the teachers and students to view.
All right, thanks for explaining that. You were just showing on your screen how to assign a lesson from a FLEXBOOK 2.0, and that's what I demoed earlier as well. But I want to show everyone how they can assign individual modalities as well, such as our PLIX, our simulations, videos, and real-world applications, separate from a FLEXBOOK. So lots of different ways to access content here, but one option is to use the search bar at the top of the home page and type in a concept. So if you haven't ever tried the search bar, you might try that. Here I've typed in continental drift at the top, and this is what popped up. So I could access that top concept page and find a lot of different modalities there if I wanted. Or I can filter where it says categories off to the left. If I knew I was looking for a video, I could put a check mark there and filter that way. Okay. Another way to find individual modalities is to use the explore circles that I used earlier for adaptive practice. This will take you to the browse page for simulations, for PLIX, and for adaptive practice. That's another great way to find individual modalities that you want to assign. And then once you've found the thing you want to assign, this is a PLIX that we're looking at. It's usually pretty clear how to do that. So on our PLIX, as well as our simulations, you're going to find an orange button at the top that says assign to class, and it's going to pop up that CK-12 or Google Classroom option for you to do assignments there. Now, if you're looking to assign a standalone read or a video or a real world application, you can do so on the left menu. It's not a bright orange button, but it's still orange, and it says assign to class off to the left there. Like this read on angles, or this is a video modality on earthquakes, or this real world application called keep your spit to yourself. These are all assigned the same way, and they all report the same way. And then I did want to say, notice that you can also view and assign practice from that little widget box in the upper corner of these pages as well. So just be on the lookout for assign to class buttons and messaging across our site. We make it pretty obvious on all of our resources.
So Lindsay just mentioned that kind of those last types all report the same way. And so we really want to give you a second to see how different modalities on our site report, what the goal is for students. This chart and the next one I'm going to show you are on that resource page. You do not need to take this all in the next 10 seconds. So we're going to go through it pretty quickly just to give you kind of an overview, but then definitely check that out on the resource page. So the last couple of modalities that Lindsay was talking about, that read, video, real-world application, those are simply learning modalities, and so they get a check mark or no credit within CK-12, and once they open that, they can turn that in. So that's kind of how that process works right now. If you're using Google Classroom, Canvas, or Schoology, and you set a point value for that, they will get 0, or let's say the full 20 points if that's what you assigned for that assignment. For PLIX interactives and simulations, same deal. They're learning modalities. They get full or no credit, but they have to start kind of interacting with that in some way. They can't just click open and turn it in right away. And then adaptive practice, which was the big piece that we had been talking about. Lindsay said that goal is 10 correct. You get a % out of 100, so 70% if you have 7 correct. Let's say you did maybe 50 points for something. So if you got 50% correct or 5 questions right, you would get 25 of those points within your learning management system. And then a quiz. So if you take that practice and you customize it into a quiz, you set the number of questions, that score would be a clean percentage score of questions correct out of the total number. Now, when these lessons show up within a FLEXBOOK 2.0, there are 3 different options. So our standard FLEXBOOK 2.0s have the text lesson with included interactives or videos, and then they have attached practice. So we don't give a separate check mark or full score for the lesson. We just give the percentage score for the practice that's attached. Similarly, if you replace that practice with a quiz, you get the same percentage score for the quiz there. And then if you create a brand new FLEXBOOK and you have yet to attach practice to that, then it would treat it just like it was a regular text lesson or read within the system. So just keep that in mind. This whole kind of chart is available in that resource page. So if you ever need to reference it, it's available for you there.
All right, so let's see assignments and reports in action here. I'm back on my classes tab, and we're going to go into the summer 2019 class that is, we just had our interns populate some work here. So under assignments, I'm seeing the number 9 of 96. And when I click in here, you can see that I have 9 active assignments for July 2019. So this is a list of what's been assigned recently. You can see a creation date here, the start date of maybe I create it, but I wait on the start date of when students are able to turn it in, and then a due date, and it shows that it's been assigned. Now that 96 number, that's showing that I've made 96 assignments in this account, and we make them available to you under this available tab if you wanted to recycle assignments that you've done in the past, either in a previous class period or, you know, the previous school year. A list of everything you've assigned is available under available assignments. You can quickly access those if you would like. Now it gets a little more interesting. Well, I guess I should say that if you click on an assignment here, you can also edit. So where you assigned it before and assigned a start date and a due date, you can also edit and change that show correct answers from this view as well. When I click on reports, this probably looks different if you guys haven't accessed reports for a while, because we just made this beautiful heat map. So this is fairly new to us, but to the left, you'll see all of our interns. This is alphabetized by last name. We just had them use a last initial for privacy reasons, but you'll see like Jumpstart student here. Your students would show up as student, comma, Jumpstart, last name, comma, first name. This is a heat map. If you're wondering how to read it, we've got a handy link over here that says how to read reports. And so if I click on that, it explains to you that you've got the due date, the assignment name, the type of modality, and then how it's going to score. This is a version of the charts Katie was just walking you through. And then we have the percentages and the color coding. So know that that is there for your reference on this page. You have the ability, if you're not into the heat map, not feeling it, you can turn it off if you just want to see the blank screen. But this is meant to just at a glance see, all right, the red is what people haven't even attempted. My green students are on track. They're doing what they're supposed to. Maybe I need to give a little more attention to some of these scores that are lower, that are in the reds and the oranges. Okay. If you need to export this data, we have a CSV file that's available for export. And a CSV file talks to a lot of gradebooks, for instance, or it can also be converted to an Excel spreadsheet or a Google Sheet if you would like. But it takes the data from CK-12, and hopefully it's something that you could easily upload into another system if you choose to do that. Several ways to view student progress. I can click on Ryan here, and this gives me an at-a-glance view of all of the work that I'm seeing displayed here. If I want to see how he did on this practice, here is where I'm getting a version of that report that shows up at the end screen when the student is finished doing practice. I can scroll down and I can see, you know, which question did he miss? He missed that one, and that's what the answer was. If you need to see the full practice screen report, you can click on the assignment title, And it takes you to an even more comprehensive report that includes the streak, the time spent, the mastery level as well. So you can get really granular with these. Some teachers are just going to use the at a glance heat map to see how people are doing, but sometimes you really need to drill down on an assignment and see how a student is progressing. I think that is, I guess, the check mark, as we explained earlier. The check mark is just going to show you for our real world activities, our sims, our videos, our PLIX. It's just going to show you the date that it was turned in, because it's a check mark completion score with our system. It's the quiz and the practices where you're seeing the percentage. All right, we'll pause again for questions.
So Lindsay, we have a question at the top that says, how did you get to this heat map report page again? So if you could just walk them through that once, that would be awesome.
Yeah, so it's just starting from the very beginning here of, again, if I access classes from the menu option, we have data in the summer 2019 class, and then the reports button here. It's going to give me an at-a-glance report for this class. So this is what will pop up when you start getting student data.
Thanks. We have a bunch of questions in terms of how will what I see differ if I use Google Classroom or Edmodo or Canvas or Schoology. So right now, the student level report that Lindsay was showing kind of earlier with the time spent and all that is available in Google Classroom and in Canvas. Schoology currently gets just the student scores. That heat map will be available this summer for all three of those integrated systems. And so by the time kind of you get back this fall, you should be able to see what that looks like in those systems. So that there isn't really a difference, or there is right now, but there won't be kind of in the near future. And so because of that, we recommend that you use the learning management system that you're using across your classes, or that makes the most sense for your school. We do have a question specific to Edmodo. So we are integrated with Edmodo, but just for practice. So there is a math and science practice app in Edmodo if you wanted to see student scores. It's not going to have the same heat map. It's not going to allow for other modality types to assign. It doesn't include the FLEXBOOK 2.0 lessons. So you may want to create a separate class for CK-12 if you're using Edmodo or a different learning management system, but not for the three main ones that we're integrated with. I think since we're hitting the hour mark, I'm going to wrap up the session, and then we'll continue to work our way through these questions and make sure that we answer all of them before we go. So let me switch back over. You guys have all this is the getting started session. So we recommend that you join us for the customizing CK-12 adaptive practice and assignment session. We are doing that tomorrow afternoon and again next week. That will talk more about those quizzes. It will talk about insights for quizzes, embedding inline questions for all of you that wanted to kind of put restrictions on your practice in terms of when they see it and how much they can do. That's definitely a session for you guys to join us for. We also recommend for all of you using Google Classroom or Canvas and Schoology at 11 a.m. PDT today. So within about an hour, we're going to get online again, and we're going to do that breakout session on Canvas and Schoology. Tomorrow, we have the one on Google Classroom. They are short sessions. They don't have matching assignments. They do not count towards our 5 live sessions for certification. So if you can't make them for any reason, just check out our YouTube playlist for the program, and you'll be able to watch those at any point that you need to do so. Now, a couple other things to talk about. If you've never scrolled to the bottom of the Certified Educator page to see the Alumni in Action section, we encourage you to watch those videos. The first is our CE, Nathaniel Eugene, and he uses adaptive practice in super inventive ways with his math classes. They use a smartboard. They have friendly competitions among their students. Definitely check that out. It was a really cool visit we had. Another video there highlights the way our certified educator, David Wessel, uses Schoology to assign modalities in his science classroom. So that one might also be useful for any of you using a learning management system like Canvas or Schoology. And now that you've completed your live participation in this session, you will want to visit the Getting Started with Adaptive Practice session section of the program FLEXBOOK and submit your assignment. Once again, we recommend that you preview all of the questions. We put all that text in the lesson. Make sure you have all your answers, put them in a Google Doc or whatever you need. And then when you're ready to start the quiz, click Start Quiz. And that way you can go through and add all those pieces in. If you already did it, you should, in your report, have an option to try again. And so that would allow you to start that quiz over again if you need to do so for any reason. Once you finish that quiz, make sure to close out that report and click that green bar with the black turn-in button at the top of the lesson page to submit that work to us. Within the program FLEXBOOK, you'll see a link to our YouTube page if you need to rewatch a session or you can't make one of those learning management sessions. We record every webinar we do this summer and we'll add each one to that playlist. You can expect the most recent video to be posted within 24 hours. We also encourage you to answer a short survey to give us feedback on the content and presentation of our sessions, as we're always looking to improve your experience. So you can find that feedback button in the session page, or you can use the direct link, tinyurl.com, CK-12 feedback 2019, right now or at any point if you want to submit the survey. We'll post that in the chat window. So don't forget to let your social networks know about CK-12 as you participate in the summer program. We're on all the socials, including Facebook as @CK-12 Foundation. And for all of you Twitter users out there, you can use the hashtag CK-12 Certified to tell others about your professional development. So with that, we want to thank you for joining us. Please be assured that you will continue to be supported by our team. So feel free to email us at jumpstart@ck12.org. And that's it for our core programming. So if you need to head out, you are more than welcome to sign off at any point in time, but we will stay online and answer whatever questions we continue to get. So Lindsay, what do we have? Okay, let's open this up for a second. It looks like we have questions on, do we still get credit hours for the optional webinars even though they don't have assignments? Your 5 live session requirement doesn't include those, but if you do attend those bonus sessions, the hours will get rolled into your final documentation for the program, so you would get credit for attending those if you attend them live. And then we have a question, do you have a link to the CEP playlist of videos such as the CK-12 and Google Classroom video? If you want to see our latest version of them before the summer program, you can do that at ck12.org/webinars. But we really encourage you to, in any section, click on the Watch Now link, and that will take you to the summer's playlist. And so as soon as that Google Classroom one happens tomorrow, within 24 hours, that will be posted on that playlist. So we encourage you to kind of go from there. And then it looks like we have a couple other questions floating through here. It says, will all these webinar presentations be available for all class members of CEP 2019 throughout the year? Yes, those webinar sessions will be available. We're not going to close this class. We won't delete it or anything like that. So you can still get in and access it at any point in time. And that playlist will be there. At the end of the program, we'll take kind of one from each topic from this summer and add that to our webinar archive so that you can access that on our webinars page as well. Let's see, we have a couple other questions floating through here. We have one that says, these are jumping. So it says our school gradebook is thinkware. Can your data be exported to this? So all of our reports could be exported to a CSV file. You can open that in Excel. You can use that CSV file. So if they take that as an import option, then you are welcome to export that and import that there. So from our end, if that works for you, you're good to go. I don't know that system well enough to know if you could put that back in there. We have a couple of questions about, I got kicked out due to a poor connection or something. We give credit for the session if you're here for the majority of time. If you need us to check your attendance for any reason, please feel free to just email us and we can go from there. We have, oh, this is a really good one in terms of learning management systems. So definitely join us shortly if you can, or watch that webinar. But it says, my LEA uses Canvas. We don't have access to CK-12. What's the best way to use it if it's not added as an external tool? So on our webinars page, so let me see if I can escape out of here for a second. I'm going to go and open up the webinars page. So if I go here and I look at kind of in the bottom under our learning management system options, so I can pull up tools and apps or integrations page, right K-12 on Canvas option. If I click that, you have an application, and that will give your district admin for Canvas or Schoology the option to go through, and actually, I don't know if you can see that because I might still be sharing my keynote. So let me swap over for a second and share that page. So here you can see the LTI application on our tools and apps page or integrations page, which I got to by clicking on this tools and apps link at the bottom. You will see this Canvas link, and that opens this application. So there you can fill that out, and you can actually ask any question, kind of get those linked so it shows up as an external tool within there.
All right, let me knock off a few here. I did not catch the difference between a quiz and adaptive practice. Where can I find quizzes? You can always create a new quiz from your library. That's where you see a create option, as well as creating a FLEXBOOK, create new quiz. And I intentionally did not discuss that in this webinar. That is what's going to be covered in the customizing adaptive practice. So you can find a quiz there, but the basic difference is in adaptive practice, we set the goal of trying to get 10 correct, and it's going to serve up easy, medium, and hard questions and adapt to the student's progress. A quiz, you may choose to use our same question bank, but it's going to be more of a static experience for students where they're going to start with a question and proceed through the quiz, similar to how you guys are doing our assignments in our FLEXBOOK. Do you have to complete CK-12 assignments by August 1st? Yes, we want assignments completed by July 31st, 2019. We're going to give you to the end of the month. You have a week after the live sessions end to do that final on-demand session and submit all of your assignments. If you have any big issues with that and you need a little bit of extra time, you know, we're flexible people here at CK-12. We'll work with you, but we're hoping to have the work, most work submitted by the end of the month so we can start issuing your certificates. We have a question about a URL of when we ask you to copy and paste a URL. Katie's going to pull up a PLIX here. And when we ask you in our FLEXBOOK to find different resources, all of our resources have a unique URL, which a URL is that thing that's displayed at the top. That's a really technical explanation. But so Katie's just going to copy the link to that resource, and that's what you can paste into the quiz questions for that first overview section. So you can use keystrokes, you can use the menu options, but that is what a URL is there at the top.
So we have a question that says, when I'm within a concept page, I believe it's considered to be a read, and I click assign. Does everything within the read get assigned, or do I pick and choose which items I want to assign? So this is something specific. Anything that you want to report for, you do need to assign separately. If you're doing kind of, there's one option to assign practice and quizzes together if you create them like within a CK-12 class, but in general, anything you want to report on. So if I want a report on this PLIX right here, I would need to click the assign to class button at the top and assign that PLIX, and it would give me that complete or incomplete. It does not give you a separate report for anything within a lesson. You would need to assign that video separately or assign that interactive separately or whatever that looks like in order to get a report.
Several people in the chat window were asking about, I missed this because of the wrong time zone. Is this going to be repeated? Is it okay if I pick up with progress next week? We run live sessions for 2 weeks, this week and next week. And I think we're offering close to 30 sessions total. And you need to attend 5 of the core live sessions. So this was the second of, I believe, 3 sessions we're running on getting started with adaptive practice. Most of our sessions we're running at least twice, if not 3 times. So it is fine if you do a couple this week and a couple of next week. If you miss this one because of a time zone issue or a connection issue, you're welcome to join the one that's happening next week. You can register on our program page at any time.
So I think we have one question about math FLEXBOOks. We're rolling out the middle school math FLEXBOOks this summer. So that will be coming shortly. Keep an eye out for that. I think our 7th grade one is coming out even sooner than that, but we're rolling them out throughout the summer. The 8th grade one is live if you want to see an example. And one last question about the Certified Educator Program. We made all 9 assignments, and there will be one last one for the Beyond session that will open up at the end of the program, available to everyone. You just need to complete the ones attached to the webinars that you attended live. But if you choose to complete more because you want to work your way through that exploration, you want credit for that time included in your documentation, you are more than welcome to do any and all of those assignments, but you must complete the 5 live ones and the 2 on-demand ones based on your choice and your attendance.
Thanks for joining us today. We're going to go ahead and sign off of this webinar, and we'll see you on a future one. Thanks.